James Mennie is here from the Montreal Gazette. Jim, what did you think of the debate last night?
Not much, and I thought even less about the debate the night before. And I think the only silver lining for any of us out here is that we may well have heard the last federal leaders debate in this country, at least in the incarnation that has been imposed upon us by the federal government. It would be difficult to. When I was talking about the French debate, I described it as a gong show. Last night's train wreck, as far as I'm concerned, you can't make this stuff up. But here we have a government-created commission that's supposed to be arm's length to everything, but confident in putting together a squeaky clean leaders debate that doesn't know Rebel News is a registered, not perceived, but a registered advocacy group, and they're handing them questions out they're handing them questions the way Poilievre was handing out donuts up at the Ottawa siege. And they're saying, well, we weren't aware of any of this. We had no idea about this. The entire process, as far as I'm concerned, has been so discredited. It was kind of getting wobbly there. I mean, back in 21, you may remember Sashi Kurl's rather loaded question to kick off the 21 leaders debate, which a lot of people credit that question with giving the Bloc Québécois 20 seats in Quebec in that vote. But, I mean, they just don't know what they're doing. There was a time, some of our listeners will recall, there was a time that there were consortiums that were formed by news organizations that would throw these things together with a certain amount of a higher level of professionalism. It would basically be everybody was working together to get this done. And the idea was it was pro bono, literally for the public's good. Now newsrooms are drowning. They're being kept afloat by government money. It's highly unlikely that even if they had the chance, they want to get involved in it. Did we find out? Did we have any insights really into the positions of Carney and Poilievre? Indeed, the people like Jagmeet Singh, who made it clear this was probably their last kick at the can. They went in there like crazy. They didn't care. In fact, in the English debate, we saw Mr. Singh. Actually, I never saw his name so often associated with the word annoying as I did with the online comments, because he kept interrupting or talking over his opponents. Although I have to hand it to him in the French language debate, referring to the Bloc Québécois as being as useless as the monarchy, I thought was a very, very good hit. But all that said, you know what? I am not going to miss the process, the really fake low rent theater process of these leadership debates. I'm not going to miss the lame boxing metaphors about knockout punches or facing jabs. I mean, they probably would be more interesting if there actually was, a physical combat there, but there isn't. It's just the same old. One of the reasons the post-debate scrums are supposed to be so important is it's supposed to allow reporters to shovel away the 25 layers of manure that have been troweled on over the course of the debate to try and get at what the candidate is really trying to say. We're not going to see that. I don't think either of these debates will have moved the needle one way or the other in the grand scheme of things. And if we start questioning what was really nothing more than a media event to start with, I think that may be a good thing. There may be other formats to be done. Maybe a debate can be held, certainly online, with a little more, how can I put it, rigor, a little more control. But what we've seen in the past 48 hours with these debates, whether it was suddenly discovering, the Greens don't have a spot in this debate, or suddenly discovering there was a hockey game going on, a very crucial hockey game going on Wednesday night, and changing at the last minute, changing the schedule of the debate. Last night's mess up with Rebel News and company. Really, I'm surprised people aren't more up in arms than they are. But honestly, it's also a long weekend, and quite frankly, the staying power of these events with every passing year has become more and more dissipated. That I wouldn't surprise me if 4 years from now, if we decide we're not going to have one, I don't think you're going to hear too much screaming.
Are you suggesting that we shouldn't be doing debates during the?
We should be doing. I think we should be doing them right. I think we should be doing actual debates. I think first of all, I think that Canadian voters would be better served by debates that pitted their candidates against each other at the riding level,
local level. Yeah.
And I think if Canadian taxpayers were called upon to underwrite that, it might be a little more effective and far more democratic than this half-baked beauty pageant that they run at the leadership level. If people come out, they come out. And if they don't come out, we'll post those online as well. Because, I know, it's all name recognition. And they're going to be voting for Carney or Poilievre. But the fact is you are voting for your MP. You're voting to send someone to represent you in your riding for 4 years. And I think we've completely lost sight of that. But certainly, based on the experience of the past 48 hours, and that this so-called this Frankenstein monster that was created by the federal government as some kind of organizing committee for debates really has to have the plug pulled. I know I heard Mr. Carney on the news saying, well, I'm not comfortable with that idea. I'd rather have lots of bad questions than no questions at all. You know what? Build a better mousetrap. But for crying out loud, stop inflicting this on people. I know they had good audiences at the outset. I also know those audiences tend to dwindle as the evening goes on. And having sat through both of these, because it's what I do, I can tell you I didn't come out of there enlightened or better informed than when I went in. As I say, it's kind of an infomercial, but in this particular instance, it's not being very effectively carried out, and we're paying the bill.
James, 10 days until Election Day. The advanced polling open today. Any surprises you think this week?
I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be any kind of a deus ex machina that's going to come in there and say, oh, boy, this suddenly changed the entire direction of the campaign. I know we've got, Carney saying, well, we're going to stay humble. The only poll that counts is on voting day and whatever. I think we've talked about it, but I don't think we've examined sufficiently just how remarkably unique this campaign is in Canadian history. Because, yes, we do have all the regular issues that have to be dealt with at the federal level, but they're completely overshadowed. I mean, Mark Carney leapt into prominence, became the front runner, became the odds-on favorite because he is perceived by most Canadians, poll after poll, by most Canadians, not as the most popular guy, not as, the most charismatic or the most inspiring. He's the guy best suited to deal with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is for real. Donald Trump is costing us money. We're not talking about any kind of theoreticals here. We're talking about someone who, from one day to the next, can find new ways to genuinely make our lives more difficult. And I think this, the idea or the perception that Carney is the guy best suited to deal with someone like Donald Trump is really the wind under his wings. But my goodness, what if Donald Trump were to disappear from the equation tomorrow? I wonder how happy people would be with Mark Carney then. Well,
Yves-François Blanchet tried to make that point, I think, at one point yesterday.
Oh yeah, he's doing his duty. I'm not sure his party will still be around on the 29th of April, at least in any viable form. But the fact is, it is, and that's why I'm saying this is a one-issue campaign, and it's an issue that could turn on a dime. And maybe people are making, they're saying, listen, I don't have a choice. I've got to do this, and maybe they're right. But the fact is, this has, honest to God, never happened before in Canadian political history, in Canadian history, and we are completely in the middle of terra incognita. And I doubt that the usual kind of last-minute scandal or the gaffe or tripping over your own feet is going to change the perceived or the perceived outcome of this vote. Of course, we'll wait for Election Day. Of course, there's so many things like weather, turnout, whatever. But I don't really see any kind of suspected or unexpected meteorite coming in the middle of everything and just extinguishing people's electoral hopes.
All right, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay.